Let's talk about money, but forget everything you think you know. We're not diving into spreadsheets or complex formulas today. Nope, we're talking about the weird, the irrational, and, well, the often self-sabotaging ways our brains handle our finances. Because here's the secret. Getting good with money has very little to do with what you know and everything to do with how you act. So, let me ask you something. What's the absolute dumbest thing you could possibly do with $1,000? I mean, really think about it. Buy a mountain of lottery tickets, maybe just set it on fire? Well, I'm about to tell you a story that might just top whatever you just came up with.
Okay, so picture this, a tech executive, a legit genius. This is a guy who was so smart, he patented a key part of Wi-Fi technology back when he was in his 20s. He was a Silicon Valley golden boy, absolutely swimming in cash. A certified, bona fide genius.
But when it came to his own money, this genius had the financial sense of a toddler holding a credit card. One day, he hands a giant wad of cash to a valet and says, "Go get me some of those $1,000 gold coins from that fancy shop over there." The valet, who's probably thinking this is the weirdest request of his life, comes back with a handful of shiny, heavy gold coins.
So what does our tech titan do with this treasure? He gets his friends together, they head down to the ocean, and they start skipping these $1,000 gold coins across the water, like they're regular old stones. For fun. They're laughing, high-fiving, betting on whose coin goes the farthest, just for a laugh. Now, you're probably thinking, okay, there's no way that guy stayed rich. And you would be 100% right. Just a few years later, word got out that he'd lost everything. Every single penny. His story is the perfect, if painful, example of what we're talking about today. And that's really the heart of it. Being good with money isn't about your IQ. It's a psychology game. You can be the smartest person in the room and still make terrible decisions. And on the flip side, a totally regular person with no fancy degree can build a real fortune just by mastering a few key behaviors. All right, let's just blow up our first big money myth right now. The idea that there's one single rational way to handle your money. The truth is, what seems completely nuts to one person makes perfect sense to another. So let's set up a little financial cage match here. In this corner, we've got Ronald Read, a guy who spent his life as a janitor and a gas station attendant. And in the other corner, we have Richard Fuscone, a man with a Harvard MBA who was a top executive at Merrill Lynch. Place your bets, folks! One of these two guys ended up with an $8 million fortune. So who are you putting your money on? The janitor or the Wall Street hotshot? And the winner is the janitor. It's true. Ronald Read just quietly saved what he could, bought some good stocks, and then he waited for decades. Meanwhile, our Harvard grad got greedy, took on way too much debt, and got completely wiped out in the 2008 financial crisis. Turns out, patience can be a lot more valuable than a fancy piece of paper. You see, our ideas about money are often shaped by the generation we grew up in. If you were born in the 70s, you saw stocks go to the moon during your teens and 20s. You're probably pretty optimistic about the market. But if you were born in the 50s, you saw stocks basically go nowhere for years. You're likely a lot more cautious. It's the same market, just seen through totally different eyes. And it's the same thing with inflation. If you're a 60s kid, you probably remember prices for everything going through the roof. But if you're a 90s kid, inflation was basically a non-issue for most of your life. Our personal histories write our financial rulebooks. So nobody's crazy. We're all just playing a different game shaped by our own unique experiences. Okay, on to myth number 2. The whole "I pulled myself up by my bootstraps" idea. We love stories about individual genius, but we often forget about the two invisible forces that are always at play: luck and its evil twin, risk. Look, Bill Gates is obviously a brilliant guy, but he also won the lottery. In 1968, he just happened to go to one of the only high schools on the entire planet that had a computer. That's a 1 in a million shot. Even Gates himself says that without that incredible stroke of luck, there would be no Microsoft. Now, let's talk about his best friend from high school, Kent Evans. Gates said Kent was his equal in every way, just as smart, just as driven. They were planning to take over the world together. But Kent was hit by a 1 in a million stroke of pure risk. He died in a mountaineering accident before graduation. It's the exact same invisible force, luck, just pointing in the opposite direction. And that really brings us to a crucial point. When we look at someone's massive success or someone's devastating failure, we have to remember that nothing is ever as good or as bad as it seems. There's always a hidden element of luck or risk that we just can't see. All right, our final myth.
And this is the one that gets so many people, even the really successful ones. It's the endless, dangerous pursuit of more. It's like trying to fill a bucket that has no bottom. It's a game you just can't win.
I mean, take Rajat Gupta. He was on top of the world, worth $100 million. But he just had to be a billionaire, so he got involved in insider trading and ended up in prison. Or Jesse Livermore, the legendary trader who made the equivalent of $3 billion in today's money. But he couldn't stop. He kept making bigger and bigger bets until he lost it all. The hardest skill in finance is getting the goalposts to stop moving.
Here's the thing people miss. Getting wealthy and staying wealthy are two completely different skills. Getting rich often requires taking big risks and being an optimist. But staying rich? That requires the opposite. It's about a bit of fear, a bit of paranoia that it can all disappear just as quickly as it came. It's a game of survival.
Just look at this chart of the U.S. economy. Over the long haul, it's been an unbelievable success story. But that journey has included depressions, wars, pandemics, all kinds of chaos. The key to long-term success is to be a paranoid optimist. You have to be optimistic that things will work out in the long run, but paranoid enough to know that the short run is going to be a wild, unpredictable ride.
So, if being a genius isn't the answer and always chasing more is a trap, what's the actual secret to financial success? Well, it turns out to be a kind of superpower, one that's hiding in plain sight, and it's way more powerful than most people realize.
This is the incredible power of compounding, and Warren Buffett is its ultimate example. Sure, he's a great investor, but his real secret weapon is time. He started investing when he was just 10 years old. And get this, nearly all of his massive fortune, something like $81 billion, was earned after his 65th birthday. That's the magic of letting your returns earn their own returns over and over for a very, very long time. And that brings us to the real point of all of this. You know, the best thing money can buy isn't a faster car or a bigger house. It's freedom. A psychologist named Angus Campbell found that the single most dependable predictor of happiness is having a strong sense of control over your own life. And that is what money can give you. Control over your time.
So I'll leave you with this one last thought to chew on. What is your money really for? Is it for buying more stuff, or is it for buying you freedom? Is it for buying the ability to wake up one morning and say, you know what? I'm going to do exactly what I want with my day. Because that, my friends, is what true wealth is all about.